dark shadows and in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast, we are the brave and bold.
First, one needs to find a remote spot to perform this ritual, where there is no chance that he or she should be disturbed, seen, or hurted by any other human. The spot should be perfectly flat and level. At midnight or on a night where the moon is new and strong, chalk and string is used to make a circle less than a 7-foot radius. And in the circle, another circle with a 3-foot radius is made, and in this circle, a fire shall be kindled. And an iron tripod holding an iron cauldron shall be placed over the fire, in which the water must be brought to a boil. And the person then throws into the kettle handfuls of 3 of the following items. Oh, God. Asafoetida? Hemlock, opium, parsley, henbane, saffron, aloe, poppy seed, and selenium. While throwing these items into the water, this chant should be said out loud. Spirits of the deep, who never sleep, be kind to me. Spirits of the grave, who I'm going to start over again. Spirits of the deep, who never sleep, be kind to me. And spirits of the grave, without a soul to save, be kind to me. Spirit of the trees that grow upon the leas, be kind to me. And spirits of the air, foul and black, not fair, be kind to me. Water spirits hateful to ships and bathers, faithful, be kind to me. Spirits of the earthbound dead, the guide with noiseless tread, be kind to me. And spirits of the heart and fire, destructive in your ire, be kind to me. Spirits of cold and ice, patrons of crime and vice, be kind to me. Wolves, vampires, ciders, ghosts, elect all of your devilish hosts. I pray you send hither, send hither, send hither, thy great shape that make men shiver, shiver, shiver. Come, come, come. But wait, that is not all. At this point, the person must take off their shirt and smear their chest with the fat of a freshly killed animal mixed with aniseed, camphor, and opium. Then a belt of wolf skin is placed around the waist, at which point the person conducting the ritual must kneel down in the first circle. And after this, the fire will quickly die out, and a demon will come to visit. And this creature that gives one power to change form. This is from Elliot O'Donnell's book, Werewolves, 1912.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Is the Werewolf Order? You represent the Werewolf Order.
Yes,
what is
it?
You're talking about the Werewolf Order on Sally Jesse Raphael, son?
Vanguard for the coming satanic century, because we have been defined by Christians and our enemies for too long. Now Satanists are coming out of the underground to reveal what Satanism is in the media. We're putting out our own music, satanic music, truly satanic music.
On Sally Jesse Raphael, son!
That we've had saddled onto us. We don't like that sort of music at all. Satanic music would be in the tradition of composers like Richard Wagner, Rachmaninoff, the great classical composers were completely anti-Christian. The Ring cycle of Richard Wagner was a complete opposition to the Christian hypocrisy. And what the
Sally
Werewolf
Jesse
Order
Raphael,
represents essentially
son?
is returning to the Western European tradition that predated Christianity. We believe Christianity is an alien creed to the Western European and American mind.
Earlier, King Diamond is a member of the Church of Satan, correct? King Diamond is a metal musician, kind of thrash metal, black metal. How do you feel about the
Bob Larson, son?
and slayers of the world?
Well, musically, I hate rock music. I think rock music's one of the most dangerous influences on young people
How so?
in a long time.
Well, why is it dangerous?
It promotes self-destruction, which we're adamantly opposed to.
It promotes the use of drugs. It promotes a very conformist attitude, even though rock musicians and...
Under the guise of nonconformity.
Does it bother you, Zena, that they're kind of using your symbols and your faith and ripping it off to get rich?
No, I wouldn't say it bothers me because they're doing what they have to do.
It's a sign of the times, unfortunately, but it is...
But if it gets a kid into Satanism, hey, isn't that
It
better
doesn't,
for you?
though. No, it
No,
really
it
doesn't.
doesn't,
It
because
doesn't.
they
All it
don't
does
have
is
a
give
clear
them
idea.
a surface illusion, which really has nothing to do with Satanism. So it is of no value to us.
On
that
Bob
these people
Larson,
utilize
son.
Satanic imagery. If we had public record
Excuse me, I
burnings,
don't understand why. Because it seems to me...
because that isn't Satanism, what they're encouraging. Drug use, the whole heavy metal
What's
aesthetic.
getting them away from Christianity? Isn't that...
No, it really isn't. It really isn't, because
And
these
that
kids...
isn't better either.
No,
I mean,
just getting away
You're
from...
real ideological purists.
Absolutely. We're an elitist organization.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Welcome to the Sermon of the Wolf. I'm your head lycanthrope in charge for this evening. My name is John Towers. So we're into our deep dive on werewolves again this week. This is part 2 of a 6-part series. The Sermon of the Wolf is a spin-off of my other podcast, the Abercast. We have a lot to get through, so let's get through it. So you're like, why did I have to listen to this whole thing about Wagner and the fucking like Ring operas and all this other kind of stuff? And I thought this was interesting because this is a bunch of LaVeyan Satanists debating Sally Jesse Raphael and Bob Larson in this video. It's unfortunate they call themselves the Order of the Werewolf, or they're starting the Order of the Werewolf. But we're getting into this. We're going to get into this trap, and the whole situation on the Church of Satan is a topic for another time for sure. So I just feel like I need to gloss over it though, because so much of it is in this week's episode. So basically the Church of Satan, they're not Satanists. They are not literally worshiping Satan. And you can understand this dude, whatever his fucking name is, and Xena, whoever her fucking name is. But I think Xena is actually Anton LaVey's daughter. So, no disrespect for any Satanists out there or whatever. Or if any of you like this guy with the hair plugs or whatever, whatever. I'm just from an outsider looking in. The idea is with the Church of Satan, the LaVeyan Church of Satanism, is they're not actually worshiping Satan. It's actually it's like a psychological exercise. They take the trappings of Christianity and they invert them, and they throw them back hello? Oh, they throw them back in Christianity's faces, inverted, and they're like, now what, bitch? Now what? So it's oh, all right, does this work? Okay, this worked. I had to What? the power of Satan. The power of Satan fucked up my headphones. So, what was I at? Okay, so the idea of LaVeyan Satanism, the Church of Satanism, is they take the symbols of Christianity and they kind of invert them and they throw them back at the Christians' faces, and they're like, now what, bitch? Like, that's literally their whole thing. You know, when they're doing their rituals and stuff, I'm not saying it's not about sex. Like, there is a lot of sexual stuff going on in LaVeyan Satanism. But the reason that there's a lot of sex stuff is because it's about the worship of the material. It's actually like you're worshiping your own body. And we're going to get into this a lot. The reason I'm setting all this up is because we're diving into LaVeyan Satanism in this episode. Because Anton LaVey wrote a book he was a founder of the Church of Satan, and he didn't write a book. He wrote an essay on how to become a werewolf, the fundamentals of lycanthropic metamorphosis. So I'm just trying to set this up for the abstract ideas that we're going to get into. A lot of people think that when you are talking about Anton LaVey or the Church of Satan, that they're actually Satan worshipers. They're not. They're not actually worshiping Satan. They're worshiping themselves in a way. And we're going to see this. And one of the things that they preach a lot about is that you shouldn't harm others unless they're willing for you to harm them. And we're going to get into a little bit of that this evening with this essay. So I just wanted to separate this out, especially because I just did this Magic and Mediums podcast, talk about ceremonial magic. So I felt like I needed to responsibly set this up in a way that you might understand it. Or at least begin to understand it, or whatever. Be like, yeah, fuck it. I understand it, jerk. Move on. Whatever your level of understanding about it is it's like these dudes actually kind of pointed it out very good at the beginning, where they're like, heavy metal isn't satanic. They use the trappings of it to. It actually doesn't make any sense to our level of Satanism or our doctrine of Satanism. They're not actually talking about, worshiping the, God of chaos, Satan, or whatever, the unborn, the goat with 1,000 young, Nigh Ha-Shuggareth. They're not talking about that Satan. They're talking about they're worshippers of a material plane. All right, so I don't know. I'm not going to do this anymore. Okay, we're going to move on. Maybe I should do. Maybe I'll do this as like a primer episode or something. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but I feel like I need to explain this more. This is different than a Thelymite or a Crowleyism. It's a whole different branch of everything. Like Crowley's it's the will. You have to find your true will, and that's the will, that's the law. And LaVeyism is kind of like it's your material body, as long as you're not stepping on the liberty of others. There's a huge difference between that. Anyhow, all right, so let's go. I'm John. I'm your boy. I'm your head wolf lycanthrope in charge. And here we go. How to become a werewolf. The fundamentals of lycanthropic metamorphosis. Their principles and application by Anton Szandor LaVey, who is the founder of the Church of Satan. Anyone is a potential werewolf under the emotional stress. Civilized human qualities regress to basic human reactions, and a threshold of potential physical change is reached. Temperament. People who normally behave in a coarse and boorish manner would be thought to be bordering on an animal state, hence making a complete transition relatively effortlessly into the this is a fallacy. For churls consider themselves as humans in the highest and most noble form of life. They are almost animals all of the time. So, the dare not, quote, go over the brink, unquote, for that would be abhorrent. One who has risen to the curbstone dares not return to the gutter. Only the higher man can metamorphose, as his ego will allow him to go all the way. He knows his circumspect and culture the greatest part of his life, so a transition to animalism can be entertained without compunction. Manifestations of this phenomenon are abundant. The most polished individuals become the most degraded when the proper opportunity presents itself. There is no drunk quite so sloppy as a rich drunk. Well, I'm not a rich drunk, but I'll toast to another drunk, irregardless. Apologies for such polarities are endless. Drunk as Lord, Jekyll and Hyde, Dracula, Jack London, etc. In virtually every literary stage or motion picture treatment, the lycanthrope in his normal state is depicted as a human of warmth and understanding and sensitivity and intelligence. The three principal emotions of sex, sentiment, and wonder may be considered as triggering mechanisms, as will be shown by the following formula by which one can affect change from man unto beast. It's the environment. Everyone has at some time or another wandered into an area of such foreboding that it is felt that someone or something is lurking in the shadows, watching, reading to spring and devour. Perhaps it was a deserted house. Perhaps it was a lovely path through the trees, and possibly an abandoned quarry. In many cases, it is known or discovered as such areas have witnessed death of an unexpected or unusual nature, or perhaps mayhem, rape, or violence. All actions involving or increased production of adrenaline on the part of either victim or perpetrator. Lust, terror, aggression, defense is followed by varying degrees of receptivity, of shock, total submission, unconsciousness, death. The polarity that such an atmosphere has undergone can be likened to an arena. Heavy concentrations of electricity have accumulated and discharged repeatedly, therefore recycling ionizations of the atmosphere in a chaotic and disturbing manner. The initial charge and attraction comes from miles around and dying on the carcass of their predecessors. The sadomasochistic dichotomy with its need for expression keeps such an area well stocked with both hunters and haunted. The haunted are drawn to such a spot because of the frightened yet submissive thrill obtained from the environment, and predators then come forth, obtained from the environment. Predators come forth, drawn by the ideal haunting conditions and abundance of game. However, the hunters have not originally entered the preserve as hunters, but as feared, inspired searchers after thrills. If this appears far-fetched, consider the phenomenon common to children on Halloween or any other night when the setting is right. The child deliberately goes out expecting to be scared, succeeds in being scared, then considering on much fun it might be to scare others. Once he has been purged of his fear needs, he then becomes the hunter, and the next child who comes along is his quarry. The entire phenomenon is akin to a recognized psychological manifestation who outwardly fear a situation while at the same time doing all in their power to encourage its occurrence. Preparation. The children's Halloween game gives us a clue to the role change necessary in lycanthropic metamorphosis. Briefly, it is thus: enter the area where you know to be trauma-producing with its fullest intention of being frightening. Allow yourself to be frightened. It is necessary to wear articles of clothing conducive to the most submissive or vulnerable image. Accidental victims are always thus attired. Oh, that's interesting. Get the feel of the place as a victim, allowing yourself to be frightened as much as you can. And if you could supplement your fear with a sexually stimulating feeling, so much the better. Allow yourself to virtually shake apart with fear if possible and attain an orgasm by whatever means may be necessary, for this will make your subsequent lycanthropic change over easier. After you have released all fear and fled the scene of your terror/ecstasy, go home and ruminate over what you felt. You will soon discover that a sort of magnetic pull will manifest itself, beckoning you back to the blighted spot. This uneasy attraction will increase with each succeeding day, ideally broadening or bordering on compulsion. And when you find yourself unable to resist the temptation to return to your danger spot, repeat the first incident in much the same manner. You will find a second foray into this area even more profound than the first, due to the anxiety and anticipation that has developed over the past days. In the truest sense, you have been performing a ritual of sending forth your energy into a living, breathing environment, and that environment, because of a continual taxation on its vitality, acts as a vampire, absorbing energy from those it attracts, and once having attracted, ensnares for future sustenance. William Reich called such areas DOR, indicating the precedent starvation of orgone or intervention of the atmosphere. Orgone energy, there's this whole thing about orgone energy, and it's like, remember back, I'm sure you've heard of this, maybe, I don't know, during the day where they're like, everyone just jerk off to save the planet. And it's like, if everyone could just jerk off to save the, masturbate to save the planet, you release enough orgone energy to like stave off climate change or whatever. Like I think that's what he's talking about. That's what this orgone energy is all about. But this is silly. This is a silly thing. Such areas are atmospherically hungry, and their barrenness cry out to be fed, and all alleged haunted houses or terror spots are reinforced by the accumulation of energy supplied by them, by the anxieties of the occupants and anticipations of visitors who return, the obsessive thoughts of those who have been affected. The second time, all right, we'll go for a little bit longer. The second time you enter the chosen area, you might not be able to spend as much time as the first, owing to your increased fear and subsequent need to quickly exercise it and move yourself. The most at this point, you are prepared for the metamorphosis, unless you find a second time a charm and crave to entertain your fears to a greater or more ecstatic height, in which case you might have scared yourself enough. It's all about fear. It's very psychological. Or else there I'd a little chance for roll change. The other words, before you become the hunter, you must first have aroused and exercised a need to become the victim. I think you see where this is going. You know, people in werewolf stories first get bit. They're normal people. They get bit and they become the biter. This is what he's talking about. If you have a habitual victim, it is wise to proceed with caution. Your desire is to be frightened and ensuing manifestations. You're the one walking into the head of the goat or whatever it's called. I should have really watched American Werewolf in London before I started this. The sheep's heart. I can't remember what it is. But they're terrified, and they go in, and they're like, you got to get the fuck out of here. And then they're terrified again. And then they get mangled, and then they wind up becoming the ones that mangle people. This is what Anton Szandor LaVey is talking about. If, however, you are able to meet your frightening needs and exercise them, go on to the next step, which is metamorphosis. I still have a lot to get through, but I need a drink, so we're going to do this. Hey, last month I made an appearance on a couple different podcast, so I want to give a shout out to them. Women Behind the Veil. I was their first male guest host on there last month. It was a great thing. They do a show that's all about kick-ass women in history, and they get into historical females and females of the occult and females ideals of the occult. They did a great episode on Kali and the Black Madonna. I learned some stuff from them, so it was fun. We talked all about Boudica and Boudica's revolt against the Roman Empire. So yeah, that's interesting. So go check them out. And then I was also on Magic and Mediums. We were on there. She asked me to come on to talk about ceremonial magic. So that was interesting. She does a podcast that's all about all different forms of magic and psychic abilities and all that stuff. So I had a lot of fun going on there and talking about ceremonial magic with her. So you can find both of those podcasts wherever you find your podcasts. I'm sure you'll be able to locate them. While I have you, don't forget to go to subscribestar.com. For exclusive audio content. There's 14 exclusive episodes you can only find on Subscribestar right now. Don't forget to hit up abercast.com. There's a bunch of great stuff, including a shop. We're now going to be selling vessels of the art, which are these big mason jars with the logo on them, with the Abercast logo on them. So check that out. Check out our Facebook page, our YouTube, and don't forget this month the American Sermon is turning into the Sermon of the Wolf. We're doing a great 6-part deep dive into lycanthropy and werewolfism over there. So if you're interested in that shit, I ask you to go check it out. Thank you guys. Metamorphosis. Attire yourself in a manner conductive to the change that is to be effected. Legends of berserkers donning the skins of wolves and bears hold substantial meaning in view of the importance costume in ritual. They're talking about psychology. They're talking about the psychological effect of this. Or Anton LaVey is talking about the psychological. He's saying, get a wolf's skin on you. Dress in the most stereotyped, quote, corny, unquote, manner as the second skin that you will wear as a potential element to complete your transmogrification. This is a hermetic or sympathetic magic exemplified. As above, so below. If you wear the mask of a wolf or the skin of a beast, it is preferable if it is not genuine, as you can better infuse a facsimile of a chosen animal to your own personality, while drawing from the known attributes of these species represented. The skin or the mask will serve as a catalyst, a blueprint for what you will become when you merge to it. So that's interesting. They're even it's in a way they're even saying, like, don't trample on the rights of these animals to do your magic. They're saying, like, hey, it's cool. It's better if it's not genuine. That's interesting because it doesn't need to be genuine in their point of view, right? It's all about the facade. It's all about the imagery, like the wearing of the horns in their ceremonies and all that stuff. It's very interesting. I think it's very interesting. I think this Church of Satan, in some ways, they would burn me alive. Well, they wouldn't burn me alive, but they would be like, I don't appreciate that at all. If I were to say that they're moral, they are moral. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that here as we go on, right? God, I don't know. That's probably not the best way to describe it. Will there be? Okay, well, we'll deal with it when I get to it. Enter the blighted area with eager anticipation when you approach the spots where you would have previously been the most frightened. Allow yourself to revel in the thought of how terrifying it would be to another if they were to feel the same fear you had felt, plus the added terror with the actual manifestation of an unfamiliar and grotesque creature. In short, it is now your role to contribute to the fearsomeness of this place. I remember when I was a kid, my folks would, it wasn't just my folks, like they would get hammered or they would have a few drinks or whatever with their friends, and they would all, Halloween time, they would all take us to haunted houses. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, yep, okay, this is... He's talking about haunted houses. He's talking about people, they grew up in these haunted houses, and then they go on to become like they're monsters in these haunted houses. And I guess that is like perpetuating this magical element to them. I remember the one time my old man took us to go. It was an abandoned... I don't know if it was abandoned. I don't know if that's the right word. It was a shopping... It was a grocery store that wasn't in business anymore. And they built like a labyrinth through it or whatever. But I remember my old man punched a fucking monster right in the face because he just grabbed my stepbrother and took off with him. I also punched a clown one time. I don't know if you remember that. Well, I didn't punch him. I like did a open palmed Sambo strike to the sternum. And then I saw the clown. He was like, he had all the other clowns lined up, and he was like fucking like doing, he was like the Norma Ray of these evil clowns. He was like trying to unionize them. He was like, this guy's lost in the labyrinth. I was there with a girlfriend. He was like, this guy's lost in the labyrinth, and he fucking put his hands on me. So like, let's just fucking like let's go and fuck with them. All right, I don't know. The stage has been set, and all necessary components have been activated. You have experienced intense fear. Now it is your turn to manifest intense fearsomeness in the form of bestiality. It's not bestiality like you think about it. It's not fucking animals. He's just saying you are like an animal. Allow yourself to slouch, almost drooping down on all fours at times. Children are quite proficient at their approximations of animals. Remember when you've romped on all fours with a dog or a cat, no doubt. Did you ever consider the implications? Anton Szandor, LaVey says, sniff the air, savoring it, and smells the environment in which you stand. If there are trees around, get close to them, touching them, pawing them, climbing and shaking them. Do everything possible to emulate the animal. If you are in a building, urinate against a wall on the floor. I do that all the time. If I'm drinking in the living room, I'll just wander out into the fucking front yard and just fucking do it. Is that a joke? I don't know. It might be. Remember, wild creatures are not housebroken. Snort. I do that often. I actually get a lot of people that bitch about it often. Snarl. I don't snarl, roar, but I do grunt. I get a lot of people that bitch about that too. Make all unsavory sounds you want. I didn't know I was going to tie this into my iTunes reviews, but okay, I just fucking did it. Here we go. You are progressively become more imbued with the sensation of being an animal. You will actually feel certain areas of your body responding in a manner alien to the human anatomy. Your legs will become haunches. Your arms will become forelimbs, your claws or your paws that crave or grasp the nearest thing. Your countenance will change. Your facial muscles will begin to twitch in bestial grimaces. All of your senses will become more acute. You will feel the need to urinate more frequently. I gotta tell you, man, I need to circle this because I feel this all the time. You will become fascinated with the moon. Now, remember, as I said in the last episode, this whole cycle of the moon thing, was a late addition. But it's within LaVey's time. So LaVey was around in the 50s and 60s, and this cycle of the moon thing came around in the 30s and 40s. So so it's already like 10 to 20 years into the mythology for him that he thinks it's embedded with the moon. So you might be able to, if you want to push back, you might want to argue with me about that. That's cool. I'm open to it. You'll be fascinated with the moon, especially if it is full. If you are indoors, you will seek to explore behind things, into cracks and below boards, and you will feel a desire to shuffle into close areas and burrowing your head into your body. Here we go. If you feel a sexual desire, it will be rapacious. It will be in a rapacious manner. And if you should perceive another person who might not normally appear sexually to you, the nature of your transformation, it will make for their lacking attributes. The impulse to attack will be present. Your higher mind must refrain taking over and holding you in your spot. This is I don't know. I'm going to hold my comment. They're still allowing you sufficient impotence to release yourself. This is the stage of transformation where control is essential. The whole point is that there is no control. But here in this frame of this American Church of Satanism, Order of the Werewolf bullshit, whatever, he's saying, like, look, go do whatever you want. Go act however you want, spit on people, go fucking crazy, but don't, hold on, you can't rape anybody. And it's interesting. It is interesting. You know, it's very interesting, but I'm like, well, what's the difference? Like, where's the slide rule? And the slide rule with this Church of Satanism is it's about, everything is about you. It's about your personage. It's about your place on the earth. So being, you know, object of sexual desire at someone's will, if you are not into it, it's a problem. Like, look, we're about to get into it. Your higher mind must refrain taking over and holding on to your spot while still allowing your sufficient impotence to release yourself. This is the stage of transformation where control is essential. Unless one is a willing, see, this is it. This is the one clip that's important. This is it. This is it. When you talk about Satanism and this werewolf business. Unless one is a willing partner who can enter the game as the hunted and reveal and revel in their roles. In this case, then complete the sexual assault can be manifested, if not sufficient restraint to attain sexual release without an attack on the victim must be exercised. I mean, if you're talking about a religion that inverts religion, let's talk about this passage, and then let's talk about the thousands now of fucking Catholic priests that are in trouble for pedophilia. And tell me who's the worst off at the moment of orgasm. Back to this book. I'm not getting into all this stuff. Back to this book. the moment of orgasm, a complete and irrevocable encompassing the animal must occur. With whatever abandon to this level may ensue, it is at this time that the change will take place. And if one should be unfortunate or fortunate enough to witness your metamorphosis, you may be assured they will never forget it. The entire principle carried out in a ritualistic exercise between pre-cast hunter and hunter is, of course, the basis of such children's games as hide and go seek, where one child revels in being frightened and the other delights in terrifying, often with both roles interchanged within a single episode of the game. As children are naturally closer to an animal state, that's an hilarious sentiment. That's a philosophical sentiment. As children are naturally closer to an animal state, they are well qualified to teach us means by which we might bring ourselves closer. It is the transitional nature of children that makes them ideal teachers. Once your transformation has been effected, allow yourself to come down, having retreated if necessary to a place where you can unconcernedly drop to the ground or to the floor and have done your exercise. Well, you should, upon returning to your normal state, feel the desire to partake of nourishment. The tremendous buildup and discharge of energy as reaching this state will have consumed vast amount of calories. The obvious epilogue to your ritual and completion of the animal cycle is to eat and fill and go to sleep, which we're going to see over and over and over again. I'm John Towers. Thank you very much. And that's it. That's it. We'll have more next week. All right. Hey, it's John. Hey, swing on over to subscribestar.com/Abercast. You can find like 14 exclusive episodes over there, but along with a whole bunch of other good stuff. We have one tier right now. It's the fellow, I guess, or the apprentice. I can't remember what it is. It's just $3 tier. You get access to everything that is up there currently right now. So go on over and support the show. Don't forget to go to abercast.com. You can find our social media links there. You could sign into the mailing list. When you sign into the mailing list, you get graphic elements. You get a link to graphic elements that have to do with the show. So worksheets, notes, graphic elements. We have an episode of the Kabbalah coming up this month, so you can find all like the Tree of Life map and the different the 3 different triangles that we're talking about, the lightning bolt path through the different Sephiroths. All that stuff is there. While you're there, please check on some comic books or graphic novels. Also, we're trying a new thing. We have a shop opened up at abercast.com. I have a couple vessels of the art left over from the giveaways last month, and some people reached out to me and asked me about, they were like, fuck the giveaways, can I just buy one? So yes, now you can. If that was a question that you had, just stop on over at the shop. I have a few on hand, and I have an order in for more, so go ahead and act now. I don't know how long we're going to keep doing it. So that's it. Check out the Facebook page. It's super easy to find. It's just the Abercast or Abercast. And also, if you spend a lot of time on YouTube, you might want to check out our YouTube channel. And just a quick reminder, the American Sermon, which is a spin-off podcast, is becoming the Sermon of the Wolf. We're doing a 6-part deep dive into werewolfism. So if you weren't interested in the American bullshit, but you might be interested in werewolf bullshit, just go ahead and find it. Most places that good podcasts can be found. We're still working on Spotify and those sorts of places, but it's on iTunes and Stitcher and all the different apps and all that stuff. So thanks.